Hi guys, I'm Karishma Bansal. I think many of you know me from GMAT Club. So I'm ex-Veritas. I've been working there. I was working there for the past 12 years. And very recently, I've started Angles and Arguments. That's my own company, in which I'm producing modules and videos, and things are coming up. It's still in process. So I see quite a few of you have already joined the session. So I hope not many of you. It's not like really early morning for many of you, right? Where are you guys from? Oh, thank you, Ayushi, so much. It has been a pleasure being on GMAT Club. It has been amazing replying to all the queries, and in teaching you guys, I think I have also learned so much. Is it my voice is echoing? Is it a little better now? I'll move a little away from my mic. Neeraj, is my voice a little better? It is still echoing. All right. Good evening, Prashant. Let me just see. Wait. I'll put something on top and then see if it works. Abhijit, is my voice echoing? Are you not able to hear me properly?
No, Karishma,
Okay,
I think it's
Rahul,
fine.
that is great.
Not echoing at all. Go ahead.
It's fine. Okay, hi, Aisha. Thank you so much, Shalini. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Okay. All right. Great. Can't hear me now. All good at your end. Okay. Yeah, Vaibhav, thank you. I do try to keep it simple. So you know what? So for today's session, what I have thought is that we're not really going to get into concepts and questions and all. We are going to get into a lot of strategy. I'm going to, I sat down for a couple of days and I thought really hard about what is it that in these 12 years I've learned. What are the things that I've come back to again and again? And where do I see that there's a lot of value? I mean, solving one question or telling you how to solve it or giving you a solution, that's not the value that is going to help you solve those questions in GMAT, right? When you actually get them. So I have compiled points which I think that you guys need to go through again and again during your GMAT journey, and I think you will get a lot of value out of that. Okay, you can hear me. Oh, okay. I hope I'm audible to everyone, because I'm getting some comments that are telling me that I am audible, and some people are not able to hear me. I hope I'm audible to everyone now. Yeah. Should we start? Yeah. All right. So if everything is well, then let's start. All right. So then, who are these 99 percentilers? Oh, perfect. Great, Ashwarya. Thank you so much. So, who are these 99 percentilers? Look, there are two kind of people there. One are those who studied really hard in school, and they have been able to keep in touch with the concepts because of their profession. And now, people who are involved with finance, people who are teaching, they everything has been kept very current and very relevant for them. That is why when they take the GMAT exam, they don't really have to prepare. They can just get up one fine day and then just take it and still get a 99 percentile, right? But for most of us, even if, let's say, we worked hard during our school, we somewhere along the line over the last 10 years or so, we've lost touch. So the things that we knew very well, the things that we understood very well, we have now we need to review them, we need to revise them, and maybe we need to understand them once again. Yeah. So but then a few months of effort is all that you need. Really, a few months of consistent effort is all that you need to become a 99 percentiler, and to keep a few things in mind, which we'll just come to. Yeah. Okay. Now, first of all, and I can't say this enough. Look, normally, and stay with me, guys. Yeah, don't go from one point to another. Just don't read all the points right now. Just stay with me. Yeah, that is important. Um, Learn to love words and numbers. What I mean by that is not just that while you're preparing for GMAT at that time, you roll into it, and those 2 hours, everything, you like working really hard at it. No, you need to learn to love words in your life, which means that every time you come across a word that you don't know, you will reach out for dictionary.com. Yeah, you will check out what it means or whatever. Now normally, I think nowadays there is a link which directly takes you to the meaning and whatever. The point is that you need to learn to love the words. You need to know each and every in everywhere you need to be aware that it's not work, right? It's not forced upon you. It's something that you need to learn to enjoy. And numbers as well. We'll discuss that in detail, what I mean, by learning to love numbers. But you need to know, like, for example, if I say 729, what comes to your mind? Does 3 to the power 6 come to your mind? For example, if I say 16, does 2 to the power 4 come to your mind, right? When you see a prime number, does it come to your mind that it's a prime number? It doesn't matter what the setting is. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Let's say even if you're paying for a sweater that you're buying, does it come to your mind that, okay, this is a prime number? Yeah, just being aware, that helps you a lot in GMAT. Okay, we'll discuss that eventually. Let me not jump the gun. Okay, second point, very essential, understanding the fundamentals. Now, you ask me, okay, how to do a question, and I give you the solution, but that is not going to help you solve the question that you get in GMAT, right? And I can't say this enough, and in a lot of my replies also, I keep telling you, understand the concept behind it, understand the fundamentals, right? You have to, and fundamentals, they seem very simple when we go to them, isn't it? I mean, it seems that, let's say if I go to work rate, there's like one formula, right? If I go to TSD, there's like one formula. So it seems that, oh, this is so simple and I've done it so many times, and why can't I do it when I actually get a question, isn't it? But there is a lot more to understanding fundamentals, right? When you cannot get a question, find out where the gap was. What is it that you did not understand, right? And then think of the variations that you can apply, so that next time if you get something like that, you are able to answer it, right? Okay. So this, I mean, like, how to solve a quadratic, right? But then, do you know why do we solve a quadratic like that? For example, if I give you, you were going to say, okay, let's make those two factors and then we'll put it equal to zero, and then each. But then why? Please think about it. Why do we do that? Because whenever there is a product of two numbers, we know if it is equal to zero, then at least one of the two numbers has to be zero, right? So we are bringing the quadratic in a form where it becomes a product of two numbers, and then we can equate either one of them or both of them to zero, right? You get the point. So go into the basics. Yeah, when we say definition of absolute value, what do you say? That it is mod x is equal to x if x is positive. But why? Because when we say absolute value, we're saying even if it is negative, we're making it positive. So when we say minus x, we are making the negative positive, right? Just go into the details. It'll make it much simpler for you then. Another point, simplify. Do not complicate matters. Yeah, look okay, I'll give you an example. For example, for me, what is an assumption? An assumption is a missing necessary premise. This is the only thing I know about assumption. Okay, now you come to me with the power score terminology where you talk about prephasing and causal assumption and supporter and defender. Honestly, I mean, no offense to anybody, but I have never used this terminology, and I will not use it, because I feel it only complicates matters. First of all, I'll try to identify what kind of assumption am I looking for. Then I'm going to try to identify the actual one which falls in this criteria. I don't want to do that at all, right? An assumption is just a necessary, it is a premise, so it is giving me new information and it is missing from the argument. That's all I need to do to solve any kind of assumption problem. Yeah. So simplify matters. Don't get into terminology. The same thing for sentence correction as well. Don't get into too much terminology. Yeah. Again, we'll come to that eventually on how to handle those kind of questions. Okay. Then and one important point, being great at easy questions is absolutely essential. Yeah, there is no scope for silly mistakes. I'm really sorry. When in fact, my daughter, she's in 8th grade right now, and then when she makes a mistake in the exam, she tells me, "Mommy, it's just a silly mistake," and that makes me extremely angry. Yeah, there is no scope for silly mistakes. You did not know the concept. Perfect. We have a solution for it. Yeah, we are going to resolve it. No problem. I'll explain it to you. But in case it's a silly mistake, then there is nothing I can do. There is nothing you can do. And if you're going to continue making these mistakes, then look, in GMAT is not going to take that kindly, right? We know how the algorithm works, right? It fine tunes, it starts with a, and that is pretty much the way the algorithm works overall, that it'll start somewhere in between and then it'll slowly fine tune you. So the moment you make mistakes in the early easy questions, it brackets you into a lower score. And then it doesn't matter how well you do. Look, it's going to give you easy questions after that. Once it has bracketed you into a lower score, it's going to give you simpler questions, right? So your accuracy is going to be absolutely irrelevant at that time. Even if you're scoring really well in all the subsequent questions, your score will still not be high. So remember, before you get good at difficult questions, you have to be excellent at easy questions. Yeah. Okay. Then, yeah, another thing, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Yeah, when you ask me practice test, okay, this is what I scored and all, I'm actually least interested in what you scored in your practice test. Yeah, what I want to know is, where did you make mistakes in your practice test? And the lower you scored, the more mistakes you made, if you ask me, I think that's really great, because instead of making those mistakes in the actual exam, is brilliant if you make them right now. You know where you're lacking, you will be able to put in effort for that, and you will get better at it for the actual exam. Yeah. So don't, I mean, when people come, they're all dejected. Oh, I got such a low score in practice test. What does this mean? I'd say that it just means that you have a chance to improve. That's all it means. Once you figure out where, I mean, if you have a great accuracy in a practice test and you've got a great score, you wouldn't know what to do to improve for the actual exam, right? So take it as a blessing, yeah, and take it in the right spirit. Then another thing that we end up ignoring is that, if we are not good at something, we need to seek help. Yeah. If, let's say, if you've solved a question correctly, great, but there's so many methods of solving every question, right? If you go to GMAT Club, in every question there are going to be so many solutions, and so many of us have given, all the experts over there have given so many different solutions, right? And each better than the other. So go check out every question, every solution, see what works best. There are going to be multiple ways of solving it. You will find, look, you know what, when I solve a question on GMAT Club, after a few months, if I go back to it because of some query someone has asked, I never go to my solution or any of the solution. I just look at the question again and I just solve it once again. Then half the times the method I'm using is different from what I used previously, because there's just so many ways of doing it, and what clicks with you during the exam you don't know. So it's best to know all the different ways of solving one particular question. Yeah. So even if you're getting questions correct, make sure that you figure out, did you use the best way forward? Did it consume less time, or are there other ways or other concepts that we can use? For example, one of my favorite topics is weighted averages, right? I keep using it everywhere. So many questions that you would come back to, you will realize that, oh, it could be solved using weighted averages, not, let's say, percentages or whatever. And it does become a lot clean, a lot clearer, and a lot faster if you do that, right? So make sure that you check out all the different methods that are available over there. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next slide. Are there any questions? Sorry. Oh, great, great, Vedant. I'm really happy to hear that. Okay, let's go on to the next slide then. Yeah. Yeah, Shariful, we'll see about that. I hope so too. Okay. Now, love for numbers. So, I was talking about love for words and love for numbers. So now I'm going to talk a little more about love for numbers because I mean, as you guys can guess, I absolutely adore them. And I'll tell you what to do to ensure that you also create a love for numbers for yourself. Again, stay with me. I would have preferred to, click and go one point at a time, but it doesn't support animation right now. So we'll go one point at a time. Don't jump ahead. Yeah, just listen to me and stay with me. Yeah. Okay, what to learn for quick calculations? I don't know whether in your school you did those multiplication tables, and I think most of us did them till 10 or till 12, multiplication of 12 by 10, right? That's not enough, guys. It really helps. It pays to know multiplication tables till 20, and I also did them till 12, and then my dad was not satisfied, and he ensured that I know my tables till 20 into 10, that is. And I have seen it that through the years it has really come in very handy. Yeah, it's been extremely useful knowing those. If I say C 16 into 6, can I say 96 immediately, or do I have to think about it? And even if not the complete table, you should know at least some key points so that you can find the next one by just adding, let's say 16 to 7, then you can find by adding another 16 to it, right? But some basic tables are required. Then squares, then cubes, squares of numbers till, let's say, 20, cubes of numbers till 10. Then we uh, what else? Then fraction percent equivalence. Yes, now again, this is something which is very useful whenever okay, I barely ever work with decimals, right? Okay, now before I give you all my examples, oh, I do this, and that is the best. Now, I don't really mean to say that, but let me tell you that when I took my GMAT, many years ago, I was given that scratch pad, and I had like barely scribbled two words on it during my quant. Yeah, and I mean, sincerely, I had barely scribbled two words on it because the entire exam is such that you can do it all orally. You really don't need to write. You don't need to do those long calculations. You don't need to make equations. Absolutely not. Yeah, most of the things you can just do orally, and so all these things are going to help you learn how to do that, and within a few seconds most of the questions can be solved within a few seconds. Yeah, I had a lot of time remaining once my quant was done. Yeah. These fraction percent equivalents I'm talking about, these are extremely useful for that. Barely ever I work with decimals. Fractions are so much easier. Yeah. Once you learn these equivalents, you will realize that there are a lot of places that you can use them. So look, at the end of it, I think in the description of the video you will have links to all these things that I'm talking about, so don't worry about it. These will be linked to the blog post, to the examples that I'm going to take, and everything, and then you can access them after our session, so no worries there. Then another thing is simplify situations. Now, what do I mean by simplify situations? Look, for example, and this thing came to me just yesterday. I was solving this one question where there were a lot of these negative numbers, and the median was asked, and these numbers were like really crazy looking. So the first thing that came to my mind was, why do I have to work with negative numbers, right? I'm looking for the median. Median just means the middle number. So whether I arrange them in increasing order or decreasing order, it doesn't matter. So let me just remove all the negatives and just work with the positive numbers. right? It is just so much more comfortable, very comfortable with positive numbers, isn't it? It's so much more natural for us. So try to simplify the situations where you can. Again, the link of that will also be available, so don't worry about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will talk about study resources as yet later on as well. Right now, let's just figure out, the things, the strategies that you need to keep in mind. Look, yeah, we'll take that later on. Yeah, once this is over. Okay. So another thing, numbers fit in beautifully in GMAT questions. So they normally those are integers. Normally your answers will not be complicated. Again, since you don't have a calculator, you won't get decimal answers and stuff, right? So, for example, look at this small expression that I've given at the bottom, right? When I see this 10 upon x plus 2 plus 40 upon x minus 3, what is the first thing that comes to my mind? That both the denominators, x plus 2 and x minus 3, must be factors of 10 and 40, isn't it? Why? Because numbers have to fit in beautifully. I mean, it's not possible that there is a 40, not possible, not there, but mostly you wouldn't get a 40 by 7 or a 10 by 3 or whatever, and then you need to add them, because for that you need to scribble, you need to write down, and that is not what GMAT expects you to do. Yeah, they need you to understand the concepts, not do calculations, because calculators can do calculations, right? So numbers will usually fit in very well. Okay, now this is one of the know your special numbers. I don't know how many of you are BBT fans over here. How many of you know what Sheldon Cooper says? Yeah, do you remember what Sheldon Cooper says is his favorite number? He's anybody remembers? If you guys are a Big Bang Theory fan, what is the favorite number of Sheldon Cooper? No? Okay. He says, my favorite number is 73, which is the 21st prime number. Why? Because its reverse is 37, which is the 12th prime number. Yeah. And he says that 21 has factors of 3 and 7, which multiply to give you 21. Yeah. And he says that in binary, you write it as 1001001, which is a palindrome. Yeah. And now, this is my favorite dialogue of BBT. It, you know, these are the things which, if you don't have to learn it up, of course, but if you remember, in a question suddenly with prime numbers, I would have a point of reference. Oh, I know that 37 is the 12th prime number, and I know 73 is the 21st prime number. Yeah. Now there are these special numbers, and if you have a love for numbers, then they normally do come in handy. For example, one of the very special numbers for GMAT is 1001. Yeah, do you know the factors of 1001? Yeah, Yushi. Yes, 73. Yeah. Do you know the factors of 1001? Do you know that it is a special number? Okay. Factors of 1001 are 7, 11, and 13. So it is made, by multiplying 7 into 11 into 13. Now, whenever I see 1001 in some GMAT question, and trust me, I do see them now and then, here and there. Then first thing that comes to my mind is that these are the factors. Otherwise, you will spend some time trying to factorize the number. Yeah. Now, do you know the divisibility rules of 7, 11, and 13? Normally we don't do those, right? Normally we have for the other numbers, but we don't have a divisibility rule for 7. At least we normally don't learn it up, right? And anyway, we don't discuss for 13. Yeah, for 11 we have. Now there is a divisibility rule for which is the same for 7, 11, and 13, based on the concept of the number 1001. I should go and check it out. I think I would have given a link to that as well. But these little things, these small things, if you notice them, then everything adds up. Yeah, finally something comes in handy in some question, something else comes in handy in another question, and it increases your love for the numbers. Yeah. Okay. Another thing, approximate, right? In case I come across a question which seems to be really tedious with square root 2 and this and that, and we're supposed to square both the sides, do this. just try to use approximation. If you learn those things like root 2 is 1.414 and all, you could get your answer even without going through the tedious process I mean, anyway, you don't expect GMAT to give you a question like that, but then even in GMAT, approximation helps. For example, now I'll tell you. So this was just, this particular fraction came to my, I was doing something, and this came up, 984 upon 1949. Now, of course, I mean, all of you would agree that one would approximate 894 as 900, and then 1949 as something, either 1950 or maybe 2000. But then if the options are really close, then your approximation also has to be small. Now, approximation is good, but remember, you need to do it mindfully. Yeah, 894, if you're approximating to 900, to keep the fraction about the same, you're increasing 894 by 6, you will also need to increase 1949 by about 1213. Yeah, because 894 is about half of 1949. So if the fraction has to be kept the same, they both need to be increased in the same proportion. Yeah, it's like a percentage increase, and it should be consistent to both of them to keep the fraction same. Yeah, so I would not make 1949 as 2000 in case the option is really close. I would make it as 1950, keeping in mind that still the number what I get is going to be greater than what I need. Yeah, approximate, but please do it mindfully, because GMAT has also gotten really smart. Yeah, it knows that you're approximating, doesn't want to make things really simple for you, so it will give you close options. Yeah. Okay, one topic that works out to our advantage is factors and multiples. Knowing them really, really helps in a lot of cases. Yeah, especially with options. Just looking at the options, knowing what are the factors in questions where factors and multiples may have no role to play, still they could come in handy. So you should be very comfortable with your factors and multiples. Now, what does that mean? What is the meaning of being comfortable with factors and multiples? If you have this question, yeah, is 3 to the power 20 divisible by 6 to the power x, where x is an integer? Can you answer it in a second? Can you just say that? Yeah, Shubham, 1001 would be difficult to factorize. That is true. Yeah. Okay. So can you say it in a moment? Is 3 to the power 20 divisible by 6 to the power x if x is an integer? Can you, just say yes or no in a moment? Jadip, I'll let you know how to reach out. But let's just wait for the end of the session. Yeah. Uh, okay. So I'll tell you, if I know my factors, then I know that 3 to the power 20 only has all threes, right? And in the denominator, if it is 6 to the power x, where x is an integer, no. So if 6 to the power x, where x is an integer, I have a 6, let's say, in the denominator, or I have a 6 square or whatever. So there is a 2 in the denominator. So what I have in the numerator is an odd number. What I have in the denominator is an even number, right? I know it will certainly not be divisible, isn't it? Now, let's say if it was 3 to the power 20 divisible by 5 to the power x, would that change something? Again, all I have is threes at the top in the numerator, right? If I have a 5 in the denominator, I cannot cancel it off, right? It will not be divisible, right? So this is what I mean by understanding your factors really well. Now, this is something that it's not. It should be, I think, but our school system doesn't really make it intuitive for us. Yeah. So knowing these are your fundamentals. Again, if you know these really well, then there is no question of GMAT that you would have trouble with. Absolutely none at all. Yeah. Yeah, cyclicity of three. Look, that's the whole point, Vedant, that it is pointless, right, for me to even think that it is possible. I wouldn't really even want to think that whether figuring out the unit digit and all. Why? Because all I have is threes in the numerator, isn't it? So if I have anything other than a three in the denominator, a prime number other than three in the denominator, then it's not going to be divisible, right? Yeah, Palash, no, not really. Okay, I think we're getting into discussion of a question, but the point is that what I mean by factors, and okay, so there are some resources that I have to understand this a little better. Um, my module does discuss factors and multiples in details. The point I'm making here is that um, this I can say for sure that just by looking at it, the 3 to the power 20 is not divisible by 6 to the power x, no matter what the value of x, as long as it is an integer. Yeah. Shubham, I think that we are going to, okay, let's come back to it. We'll come back to this question. If once we have time after the presentation, there are a few things that I want to discuss with you in this first session that I'm having. If we are left with some time, we'll come back to it. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. Um, Another thing, very important. Think of the number line. Again, stay with me. I can't say this enough. Just stay with me. Yeah. We'll go one point at a time. So every number that, all real numbers. So every number that is interesting to GMAT that can question you on is present on the number line, right? So it pays to think in terms of a number line. I'll tell you why. Look, it's not intuitive for us to think in terms of greater, smaller, and all. We're not arranging the numbers in a list, and you know s- but a number line has all the numbers arranged horizontally, and it's much easier for us to think in terms of, does this number lie to the right of this number, or does it lie to the left? And that simplifies the process a whole lot. Yeah, I'll give you examples. um, First, let's discuss a few other things. For number plugging, you split your number line into four parts. What are your four parts? Less than minus 1, that means minus infinity to minus 1, minus 1 to 0, 0 to 1, and 1 to infinity. Yeah, these are your four parts. Split your number line into these four parts. Yeah, whenever you number plugging and you say whether, especially for DS, okay, for data sufficiency, it's not something that I like. Until unless I'm able to plug in two numbers and get the answer as not sufficient, that's okay. But otherwise, you can't prove sufficiency with number plugging. But let's say you're in a pinch, there is nothing else that's coming to mind, and this is all we can think of at that moment. Then ensure that you've tried a number from each of the four portions. Why? Because the numbers behave differently in these four parts. Yeah, their squares will be different, their cubes will be different, their square roots will be different. So whenever you're number plugging, make sure that you split your number line into these four parts. Again, from minus infinity to minus 1, minus 1 to 0, 0 to 1, and 1 to infinity. Yeah. Okay. Now we know that we have used number line, and I use it extensively for inequalities. I use it for absolute values, right? Whenever we have to club two inequalities, let's say if x is less than 5 and x is greater than minus 3 or whatever, it's so much easier to do it on the number line. You can immediately see, I mean, you don't have to draw it, right? You can just think about it. Okay, here is minus 3 and here is 5, and then this is where it lies, isn't it? So we've used it extensively in inequalities and absolute values, but there are also a lot of places where you can use number line even if it seems like it has nothing to do with it. It's a tool for you to imagine it in your mind. Again, that concept of not writing. Look, I'm a very lazy person. Yeah, I hate writing. So whenever I'm solving question or GMAT club, I will never keep a rough notebook with me or whatever. I will normally just start typing the answer. I'm a very very lazy person, but there are tools that I use. I mean, I use my imagination. There are visual tools. I think about things in a certain manner, and that is what helps me keep my scratch pad at bay, right? So, for example, I came across this question just a few days ago. For which of the following lists is mean greater than the median? And there were a few lists given to you. Now, normally, what would you say? that it has nothing to do with number line, right? From where did that come in? But then the moment I see these numbers 2 by 3, 3 by 4, 4 by 5, and 5 by 6, I have already placed them on a number line. I know where they lie. I know that they are between 0 and 1, and then 2 by 3 is first, then next to it is 3 by 4, then 4 by 5 is very close to 3 by 4, but still to the right, and 5 by 6 is even closer to 4 by 5, but still to the right. Yeah. Then if you remember that when you add 1 to the numerator and denominator, then the number goes towards 1, right? I have a blog post on that, and I think some of you might have read it. Anyway, it will be provided in the link in the description, so don't worry about it. But I know that if I add 1 to my numerator and denominator, and if the number is less than 1, then it goes towards 1, right? So then I know that these numbers are increasing, but they are increasing very slowly. Initially, 2 by 3 and 3 by 4 have more of a distance between them, but 3 by 4 and 4 by 5 have less of a distance between them, right? So then I know that my deficit is going to be more than my excess. So my mean is going to be less than my median from the center value. Yeah. Now, again, this has nothing to do with number line, and I totally understand that. But it is an extremely useful tool for you to visualize it. Yeah. I like to say that, okay, this number is to the left of that, and that number is to the right of it. So that is why it is greater, or if it is to the left, then it is smaller. Yeah. Get used to this concept of using the number line. Yeah. Okay. A couple of things. Again, this comes in handy in all your quant questions. Options are your best friends. Yeah? So when I read the question, I'll keep the options in mind. I'll see what is given. Sometimes you don't even have to solve the question. Again, as I said, if you love your numbers, you can see prime numbers, you can see factors, you can see multiples, you can see the units digit. There are a lot of tools that we have to ensure. Sometimes we don't even need to solve the question. Yeah. So always keep an eye on the options. And so this, and one thing that I learned in my 11th, I don't know if you know how many of you in India, if you know Chitkara sir, you know he does that coaching variety and all, and he was very popular at my time, and I did classes with him. And so he used to have this fundamental key options may, if you see one, if you see n, just put n equal to 0, put n equal to 1, and he drilled that so much into us. And even today, the moment I see an option, when the options are in terms of n, for example, what will be the distance covered in terms of a or in terms of n or whatever, then the first thing I'll do is I'll put the variable equal to 0. I don't know why a lot of you don't like to put it equal to 0. You would much rather go with a 2 or a 3, so that maybe perhaps you feel that you will get multiple options in case you put a 0, and then it will be more work. But 0 and 1 actually are our best friends. I mean, the moment I put a 0, I can see that, okay, 2, 3 options are already gone, right? And I'm just left with 2 to figure out. Then I can put 1, 2, 3, whatever, which takes a little more time. But ensure that you put the simplest number. Don't try to increase work for you. I've seen, when you guys give solutions, sometimes you will say, okay, I tried n equal to 3, and this is what I got. I put 0 first, put the simplest one first, right? Okay, now slowly we are going into verbal territory. Necessary and sufficient conditions. And the reason why I've kept it over here is because these are essential for quant as well, especially for DS, of course. One thing which is very important, which you should know besides your math that you need for problem solving and all, is the sufficiency of DS questions. What do you mean by sufficiency? Even the best of us sometimes make errors over there, right? So I have devised a way. Yeah, excuse me. So I have devised a way of accessing the DS questions. What I do is I'll first read the question stem. Yeah, I'll read my statement 1. I'll see whether it is sufficient or not, and then I'll try and erase statement 1 from my mind, because often we are left with some of the data in our minds. Yeah. How do I do that? I go back to the statement question stem. I go back to just the question stem. I'll just read the main points that are there in the question stem, and then I'll go to my statement 2. I'll just try to hide the statement 1 from view. Yeah, this sufficiency, whether you have to ensure that your statement 2 alone is sufficient. Yeah, don't by mistake take the data of statement 1 as well along. Yeah, we do end up doing that sometimes. Even the best of us end up doing that, and again, it is one of those silly mistakes that I talked about, and there is no solution to that, right? There is no way to resolve that except making sure that we don't do it. We do it consciously. We go back to the question stem, look at it, and then we come to our statement 2. Yeah, of course, you know that necessary and sufficient conditions are extremely important for CR as well. And again, it's all your GMAT material discusses those in detail, and I have also discussed it in my CR module. So it helps you solve a lot of questions in CR. Your deductive logic, first of all, if A then B, I like to normally take it as if A then B, and then get the logic. So again, something extremely important for CR and for DS as well. Another important thing, DS geometry. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I do DS geometry with diagrams. What that means is, I go back to my middle school, high school days, and I think of that compass box that we used to have. Remember, with that scale and with that compass and D and everything, right? So I go back to that. Then, when I have a DS question, which, let's say, for example, if it says that there's a triangle and they've given me two sides and they've asked me for the third side, and whatever information is given, I'll try and start imagining, okay, if I have to draw this, how will I do it? I'll first draw a straight line using a scale of 5 centimeters that is given to me. Fine. Now another side that is given to me is 6 centimeters, and I'm supposed to find out the third side. So how will I draw this 6 centimeter side? So I'll open my compass at 6, but then that gives me a whole load of possibilities, right? So what this means is that even though my one side is here, my other side, the 6 one, can go like this at a lot of places, right? And each one will give me a different triangle. So that means that I cannot find a unique value for the third side, right? And this concept of trying to construct it really helps me. Okay, Shubham, 0 and 1, yes, yes, Shubham, absolutely my point. Yeah. Okay, so this concept where I try to draw the figure and I realize that it is not sufficient, and I don't even have to draw it. Actually, I'm just drawing it in my head. Okay, so I have these basic tools that I use to draw figures in geometry, and just trying to think on those terms, that has helped me solve a lot of those 700 plus level DS questions just orally, just in my mind. Yeah, I may write a whole page of solution for you guys to explain how to think about it, but trust me, it takes you a few seconds to think about it, actually, right? So that's one tool again that has come in extremely handy. Okay, now let's discuss verbal for a while. There aren't too many strategies, there aren't, but one thing that I would, and all of us, all the GMAT experts will tell you is that you've got to read. And again, that love for words that I was talking about, right? And I don't care what you read, as long as it's from a good publication. It's absolutely fine. You can read your fiction, you can read your Daniel Steele also, for all I care, or Eric Segal or whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as you are reading, it will help you for sure. Yeah, of course, read newspapers and magazines. Those are required. Ensure that you read from different topics. You read from history and from business, from economics, from psychology, not just the ones that interest you, but read, yeah, as much as possible. It is going to be useful for your sentence correction, for your RC, and for your critical reasoning. I'm sure you understand that. And that is one way in which you can prepare for GMAT even while you're not preparing. If you know that a few months or years down the line you have to prepare for GMAT, you might as well start reading if you don't as of now. Yeah. If you know that it is within 2 or 3 months that you have to take GMAT, I totally get that reading is not going to make a whole lot of difference. But still, please ensure that you, let's say, spend at least an hour or 2 hours every day in reading. Yeah. Okay. Now, your power score will give you a lot of different strategies of CR, and as I said, a lot of terminology and all. Yeah. To solve difficult questions of CR, there is basically, I feel, one thing that you have to keep in mind once you've figured out the types of questions and what to focus on the conclusion and strengthen weaken questions and all. We've discussed all of that in all our materials and everything. Yeah. But what I want to give you today is what is not going to be available in your material. And even if I write it in my material, which I do, it won't make an impact because you assume it is gyan, right? That, oh, yeah, right. They just keep saying it. But it makes a difference, right? It helps you visualize. Whenever you come across a CR question, stay with me over here. Don't read the example as of now. Imagine that there's someone talking, there are two people, or talking, or there is someone who's addressing a group. Yeah. Imagine that someone is saying it. Don't read it passively. Imagine that someone is saying it to you. So let's say, for example, this argument that I've given: manufacturers sometimes discount the price of a product for a promotion and whatever, right? So when I'm reading it in my mind, I'm going to imagine that, okay, so someone is telling me, maybe some expert in the field or whatever, he's telling me this. Yeah. Now I'm going to think, okay, what is my reaction? Do I have to support what he's saying? Do I have to find a fault in what he's saying? Do I have to figure out what he's assuming? We do that, right? When two of us talk, and if someone makes a point, we do that, right? Every day we do that. But we might support the person, or we might say, oh no, you're wrong and this is why you are wrong. But remember, we always stick to the point, right? We always, when the other person is making a point, if we have to rebut it, we are going to stick to the point, isn't it? Look, what I mean is, for example, someone says that this is a good method to solve this problem, right? Now, it gives us good accuracy. For example, if we use this particular method, and it will give us good accuracy, it will give us good results. How can I rebut it? How can I weaken it? I'll try to prove why it may not give us good results. Yeah. Will I say, oh, you know what, that is okay, good results are all good and fine, but what if if it's really expensive? Hey, cost is not what we are talking about over here, right? We are talking about whether it will give us good accuracy or not, right? So ensure that you stick to the point. When someone is making a point, ensure that you reply to that point that the person is making. Yeah. So try to use this strategy a few times for some practice years and see how you feel about it. See, you need to stay. Look, half of my questions, half of my options, I'll write irrelevant or out of scope, right? Why? It's just so clear that the speaker wasn't even talking about this point. He was talking about this, and this is what I have to strengthen or weaken, right? So go back to your CR arguments. Try to imagine as if someone is making this point to you and how you will respond to it. Yeah, how you will stay within scope. Okay. Okay. For SC. Now, SC is, of course, it is about grammar, but it is a lot about meaning as well. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. And I remember, when I joined Veritas many, many years ago, they used to harp on and on and on about meaning, even though at that time, not many people were talking about it. Yeah? It is about what is being said. Sentence correction. Now, and normally I keep saying, oh, rules, please, whether this can happen or not, don't ask me that. Give me a question, I'll tell you whether it works in this particular question or not, right? I keep saying that, right? Because it's a language, right? If there is a situation which demands otherwise, then the rules aren't really stuck to. I mean, it's a very fluid thing. And a language is very dynamic, right? So for example, I was just so what I do in an SC question is you have to make it very bare bones. I just remove all the extra elements and I try to think of what exactly is being said. For example, in this example, among the Sangha Bantu speaking tribes of Southeastern Africa, dance teams represent their own chief. Now, first of all, among the Sangha, anyway, it's just telling me something more about what is going to come. There isn't a lot of value in it as of now. So I'll just keep it aside. A Bantu speaking group of tribes in Southeastern Africa, it is telling us what Sangha is okay. When I'm not concerned about among the Sangha, I'm not concerned about a Bantu speaking group also, the description of it, right? Now, dance teams represent their own chief at the court of each other, then providing entertainment in return for food, drink, and lodging. Now, providing entertainment, we know it's a present participle, it is modifying the entire previous clause and whatever. So, I will keep that aside also for the time being. My first reaction will always be to get down to the skeleton of the sentence. What is it trying to say? It's saying dance teams represent their own chief at the court of each other. Okay, now this is all that I have to focus on for the time being, right? And then, I can see that, okay, the teams represent their own chief. They're talking about singular chief. So then it can't be at the court of each other. It has to be at the court of another, right? So, so just break it down, remove everything else, just focus on the skeleton of the sentence and try to figure out what exactly they are trying to tell you. Yeah, meaning is going to be paramount. And as we go ahead, meaning is going to be more and more important in the coming years, right? Okay, SC and CR are still easier to improve on, and I'll give you that. RC is normally a nightmare in case you're not good at it, right? You will keep feeling that RC isn't getting better no matter how much you're practicing in this, right? Again, so what I like, and the RC passages can be so drab sometimes, isn't it? If it's a topic that you don't really enjoy, they can be so drab. If it's not your background, it's not your field, then so again, what I do in case I'm reading an RC passage is I try to imagine someone standing out there on the stage and speaking it out to me and telling me all this. Yeah, it certainly adds an element of interest to it. He's trying to give me some information and there is a certain way in which he's structured it, right? So that just imagining that itself makes it a lot more interesting. Yeah, I know that all your curriculum material tell you about the various question types, what to focus on, this and that. Absolutely fine. Yeah, follow all those. But next time you read an RC passage, just imagine that someone is saying it out aloud to you. Yeah, you will feel yourself getting a little more involved in it. Yeah. Um, okay, so now this is pretty much my last slide. Uh, I will leave you with two big pitfalls, and this is where I have again and again made mistakes. Till the time I wisened up to them. I mean, many years ago, when I would solve a question, there would be some question which I would make a mistake, and this is where I would make it, even though conceptually there weren't really any problems, but I would again and again fall for these two. Yeah, variables needn't be integers. Remember those exponent questions: 3 to the power a is equal to, um, whatever something. 3 to the power a into, let's say, 2 to the power b is equal to 6 to the power c or something. It was just so easy to assume that they are going to be integers and the powers are going to be equal and all, right? But remember, now every time you read a question and you have a variable, please ask yourself, on the number line, where can this variable lie? Is it just those points of your 0, 1, -1, whatever? Or is it that can be all the decimals and all the fractions as well? Yeah. And again, another place where people do make mistakes is you need to solve quadratics for DS. I know I mean, this is not something you expect, right? In DS, anyway, we say don't solve, save time. You just have to figure out the sufficiency. But quadratics is where I've fallen multiple times as well. For example, I would say, oh, quadratic. Oh, yeah. So two roots. Okay. So two answers. Fine. But then, what if the roots are equal? Or what if one root is negative and the other is positive? So in especially in DS questions, it is prudent to solve the quadratics. Yeah. Just two areas where we all end up making a lot of mistakes, and we would get those easy questions wrong as well. Yeah. Okay. All these links will be available to you in the description of the video. Look, this is the gist of strategies. This is the gist of things that I wanted to tell you, which I don't think a book will tell you. Yeah. What if yeah, you're looking for, okay, so we had that discussion on materials. Someone had asked me what are the materials that you can use. So I had a good experience with Veritas Prep. I was working with them for a long time, of course, and I thought that they were really great in their strategies and stuff. Yeah. If you're going to ask me about Manhattan and about GMAT and all, I am in absolutely no position to help you out over there. I can tell you that I am creating my own material on anglesанdarguments.com, so you can check that out. And I do try to, include as much as possible. And everywhere here and there, I'll keep trying to include this gyan also, which I think you're going to ignore, but still, at least I'll keep trying to, put it over there. So you can check that out as well. A lot of the quant modules are ready, but the verbal module is still, going to come a little slowly. So I apologize for that. It'll take some time. Okay, what else? Okay, so do you guys quickly want to take a look at that question? Okay, let me just take a look at a couple of questions rather than crack many questions. Yes, Vedant. So accuracy in meaning is all the rage these days. I mean, grammar is slowly, um, phasing out. I mean, not phasing out. Okay, yeah, grammar is important, of course, and all your subject verb and all those things are extremely important. But a language is so dynamic, right? So as long as the meaning is out there, as long as you being able to understand that, and that's pretty sufficient. And this exam max, I've reached 619 marks. I reached a senior. All right. No, Shubham. So Shubham says that he's taken the exam twice, and I think we're running out of time. But so he has reached 690 max, and in the optional marks he's got 730 and 720. So it's not a matter of reaching the ceiling again. Look at it from a fresh perspective. Yeah. Figure out, look, when you take a practice test, figure out where you're making mistake, figure out the gaps, plug in those gaps. Automatically it'll increase your score a little bit. Then after that, it is a lot about using the right processes. Look, GMAT questions are not hard, right? Given unlimited time, I think most of us can do a pretty decent job in it. So, what makes it hard is that time pressure. So, what becomes important is the way you are attempting the questions, the method of solving it. That becomes critical, right? And in fact, if you're well ahead of the clock, then you feel more upbeat and you're able. Look, it's a lot of there's a lot of psyche involved as well, right? It is trying to beat you. So if you are ahead of the time, ahead of the clock, then you feel a lot more motivated and a lot more positive at that time, and that itself can help you increase your 20-30 points as well. So I would suggest you to check out the methods that you're using, see if they are the best ones. Are you being able to do it in a timely manner? And yes, going from 600 to 650 is far easier than going from 700 to 750. I totally understand that. But with the right approach, it's certainly not a problem. I think you should be able to manage it. A humanities student scored a decent Q for encouragement. Thank you, Shritam. That's awesome to hear. Can you please about how many? Right. Can you please tell me about how many hours to study? Vedant, hours to study is there is no right answer to that. Yeah, I have known people who just wake up in the morning, go take the GMAT, and still get a 99 percentile. It all depends on what is your need. Yeah. In case you're starting at a lower score, again, hours of study I'll still not be able to give you, because I normally suggest my students to, let's say, put in 1 hour of quant every day, 1 hour of verbal every day, but just make it count. Yeah, which means that keep your rough notebooks away. Try to look at everything holistically, try to solve questions holistically, make that, ensure that if you have conceptual gaps, you're working on those, make that time count. Yeah. And okay, I haven't put anything over here for that, but I'll at least tell you that practice tests, they you should take one once your curriculum is, you've been through one curriculum, one set of curriculum back to back. Then take one practice test. Yeah? Then figure out what your weak areas are. Then work on those weak areas. Then take another practice test. Let's say, once every 2 to 3 weeks. Do not think that practice test is what is going to improve your score. It's not. That quality time that you spend, that is going to improve your score, which means, look, there is a learning phase, right? Learning phase is what is going to add value. Then there's a testing phase. A practice test will only help you test how good you already are. It's not going to add too much value. Yeah. So even if you put in less time, just use it in a better way. It's just the exam pressure and time. Absolutely, Shubham. It is the exam pressure and time. I panic before the exam thinking that, oh, come on, Shubham, listen, you can cancel the score. I mean, it now at least you shouldn't really feel it. I mean, so what? It's just about a little more money, right? And a little more time. And I get it, those are extremely important resources, but still, think about it. It's not a life or death matter, isn't it? What worst to worst, you not get a good score. It's fine. Try it again. Don't worry so much about it. Try to give it with a cool mind, and have a gala time 2 or 3 days before your exam. And I do not mean a party, but I mean just relax and don't study too much and all. Yeah, before your exam, just try to relax your mind, and certainly no practice test at least 3 to 4 days before the exam. Really. Yeah. Okay, intelligent investor. I have a Q30 with no prep. I'm aiming for Q49. Please suggest a path. Yeah, so it's not hard at all. There's a long way for you to go with but with Q30, I think you'll very easily go up to Q45. That shouldn't be a problem. Once I'm not sure if your basics are in place, which means if your middle school and high school concepts are in place, where you solve simultaneous equations, quadratic equations, and all those kind of things. So if those are fine, your fractions, your decimals and stuff, just ensure first that those are fine. After that, if you go through a GMAT curriculum end to end, I mean, the score should easily go up at least 10 to 15 points. After that, it's a little bit of an uphill battle. But if you, I mean, do it right. Do it with your heart. I mean, don't do it because it's an exam, you have to take it. Again, love the numbers, or at least try to create a love for the numbers and love words, and then it'll be much easier. Is it better to have a weekly practice test post in testing phase? It depends on what you mean by testing phase. If you've already completed your curriculum and if all basics are in place, and if, let's say, you have 3 to 4 weeks before the exam, then yeah, weekly is good. You can but let's say if one day you take the test, the next 3 days need to be spent in evaluating everything, yeah, every question, not just the ones you got wrong, but the ones that you got correct as well. Find out the best ways. Were you able to get to the best method, or did you think of something else? Did you get sidetracked because of what? I mean, analyze it very, very thoroughly. That is where the value of a practice test lies, right? I too had a roller coaster on GMAT till now. Hope to ace it right finally. Oh, Gunjan, I hope so too. Try to approach like any other time. Yeah, yes, Shubham. Do keep me updated. Yeah, tell me what happened. As few school in GMAT, do we need to go for GMAT? Look, I think it's always a good idea to have a good GMAT score in your pocket. Yeah, you may decide to apply to a school that does need it, or you may decide to apply it a while later if you have the time. And it's a good idea to keep a good GMAT score in your pocket. I'm not able to improve my, okay, I'm at my verbal more than 30. I've already completed. Okay, just a moment. I've already completed top GMAT online course, but still it's not improving. I started from V13 now. Okay, so first of all, I think it's absolutely brilliant that from V13 you went up to V26 to 30. Um, okay, V30, it means that you're getting the basics, but I guess you having issues in all the, a little trickier questions and all. Now, depending on what is it, whether it is SC or CR or RC that's tripping you, there various ways of, improving. Again, try out some of the ways that I talked about. The most important thing is your interest in verbal. Yeah, you wanting to understand what is being said, right? Once you start taking interest, let's say you when you start imagining, okay, that someone is telling you this or whatever, you certainly, you focusing a little more on it, that is half the battle won. After that, your question types and knowing what to focus on. Assumption, when I say it's a missing necessary premise, I can just list down my premises and I know that conclusion has taken a jump, right? Conclusion is talking about something which is not even there in the premises, so of course my assumption is going to link these two. So knowing these little things is going to help improve a lot. Yeah. Okay, Vedant, great. I'm happy to hear that. Pranay, when I first gave my GMAT, the exact opposite happened. I complete the question for the time, even took a longer break, missed some minutes on verbal, still completely chill, but got a low score. Okay, that's you got a low score even though you completed everything on time. Then I assume, and I can't really say what exactly happened, but I assume that you made some mistakes early on, or those were careless mistakes or whatever, and then the software bracketed you into a lower score, and after that you got easier questions, so you didn't really have to sweat it out and it all seemed to go really well, but you got a low score, right? So ensure that you don't make those careless mistakes. Ensure that you are really, really particular, especially when this test starts. Yeah. Intelligent investor, yes, I do take tutoring sessions as well. You can get in touch with my people on angles and arguments and they'll guide you on how to go about it. Yeah. Okay, then I have one way. If we run out of time solving verbal section, randomly guessing the questions better or leaving the left. Right. So first of all, if you run out of time on verbal section, it is something that you would have known ahead, right? In your practice test, you would have come across this where you find out that you don't really complete the verbal section on time. So be prepared for it initially. So what I mean is that, for example, if you come across a question which seems hard, just take a look. If the question seems extremely hard, or you're really long, or it's from a topic that you're not extremely comfortable with. For example, if CR, some a lot of people don't like assumption question. For example, if it's a CR assumption question and you see that it has a long statement, just skip it. Yeah, don't take too much time. Just skip it. If you know that your test is coming up, if you know you're going to fall short on time, then plan ahead. Topics where you normally don't do well, topics where or a question which seems hard, then just skip it and have the just mark whatever within 30 seconds and move ahead. That will help you streamline your last questions. If it does come to that where you have those last 3-4 questions left, yeah, so the general consensus is that's best to mark and not leave it unmarked. Yeah, but don't come to a situation where you have like 7-8 questions left over and you run out of time. Just ensure that then you pace yourself accordingly. Then if you see topics where you don't do well, just leave them in the middle itself, yeah, and save time over there. Okay, I have, yeah, all right. Should mocks be taken before or after prep? Shubham, your first mock should be taken. So, normally we have something called a diagnostic, right? Where, we try to figure out where we stand right now. But even that should not be taken without taking a look at the questions, because it's going to be demotivating for no good reason, isn't it? If you know the kind of questions that you're getting, for example, I mean, just one lecture in CR or just one lecture in data sufficiency could help improve your score by leaps and bounds, right? But if you don't even understand the kind of question, then you take a test, it's just going to hurt you. So it's best to first at least have a sense of what the test is all about, topics, and a rough look maybe. Then you can take a diagnostic. After that, once you go through the curriculum, once you try a few practice questions and all, look, the learning phase has to come first, right? Testing phase has to come later. So once you go through the curriculum, once your learning phase is kind of done, at least one run is done, then you can start your practice test. Again, not more than one in a week. And in the last week, it's best to not take. Just a week before the test, your actual test, best not to take a practice test. Yeah. Adesh, what guidance would you give to someone who wants to move from 690 to 740? Honestly, those are not very different scores. Yeah, again, as we had this one query before also, the scores are not very different. On a good day, a 690 could easily score a 720. It's all about the nerves at that time. Yeah, it's all about keeping your cool. It's all about yeah, having the right method to solve the questions, knowing that you're using those the holistic approaches which make it really really easy to solve the question. You can do it within a few seconds, and then not being behind the clock and all those little things could itself make the difference, of course. I mean, with a 690 you're almost there, right? It's a lot of, it's a psychological game at that time. Yeah, it's a psychological game mostly at that time. Timings for both quant and verbal. Okay, so timings for both quant and verbal. I'm struggling completing the entire question. The situation is worse in verbal. Yeah, so Abhirup, I think a lot of non-natives, we do have issues in verbal with the reading speed because we haven't learned to read fast, right? We usually take our time, and if I remember correctly, our teachers used to say, okay, enunciate and speak out words loudly and read it to the class and stuff like that, right? And that taught us to read slowly. One important thing will be for you to, how newspapers have those columns, isn't it? That width of the column is supposed to be such that you should be able to take it in one eye span. Yeah. So a newspaper, when you're reading, you're supposed to read it like this. You're not supposed to read it like this. Yeah. So start practicing on that, where try to take the entire column of the newspaper in one eye span and try to increase your speed, reading speed. Then, of course, knowing the kinds of questions and stuff, and knowing a few basic things on how each question is to be handled, and then practicing that will help you. I didn't sleep the night before my exam. Not even, yeah. Okay, that can be terrible, Pranay. It is essential to sleep, obviously. Otherwise, and who am I to say? I mean, I myself have a lot of sleep issues. So what do I suggest? I try to drink some warm milk. Try to Sleep is a must. You have to have good rest. Do one thing, otherwise see in case you can plan your test in the evening, in case that works out for you. If you're not being able to sleep at night, maybe you should try and grab some sleep in the morning or afternoon. Again, I don't think anxiety would settle down, but I get it. That is a big problem. So see what works. For example, what I do when I'm unable to sleep is that I watch reruns of my favorite shows. Yeah, and shows like Friends and Big Bang Theory, things that you would have watched like God knows how many times, right? I just put it on my earphones, I play it on my phone, and I just try to lie down. There is this effect that it has because it gets so boring. You've seen them so many times, you know all the jokes and all. Yeah? You start. It helps me. You see if it helps you. I would not obviously suggest any kind of medication. So other than some calming, soothing ideas, I don't really know how to help you in that. Okay, what advice would you give to someone who wants? Yeah, okay. Any say how to tackle science passage, biology passages are major drawback. Okay, science passages. If you do not have a background in science, you would find them a little tricky. But they are all about terminology. Yeah, we get lost in terminology, isn't it? Try to not focus too much on it. Try to focus on if you come across a big word, just say something something and then move on, right? And then if you come across the same word later, say something something and just move on. Yeah, try to get the gist of the passage. But also it's going to be important in case science passages are tripping you. Practice on science passages, read as much as possible science journals. Try to, if like for example, if the passage is on a topic that I have an idea about, yeah, it's so much more easier for me to understand, isn't it? And then it seems interesting also. If I'm not getting the half of it, then it seems absolutely worthless, right? So ensure that you have some basic knowledge of how various technologies, and then if you get a passage, then you'll find it a little easier. If you've already identified that science passages are a problem, great, that's a great start. Now ensure that you read a lot more of these, and read some science journals and get that sorted. Shivam, mock taking strategy, maybe in another presentation. I think we are really behind time. Again, that's a whole presentation. So perhaps uh, intelligent investor, I would not be able to comment on any of the other prep providers. I can tell you about what I do, and I can tell you that Veritas was a good experience. And, I think those people really did care about doing it right. But I can't comment on anybody else. Gave my first mark after studying for 60. Okay, Kanishk, I gave my first mark after studying for 60 hours, covered all my basics. I scored 650. Okay, I'm self-studying, planning to score 7. Yeah, all right. It sounds quite doable. Figure out, Kanishk, where both, by the way, both quant and verbal will need some improvement for 760. Of course, you're looking at least a Q49, preferably. I mean, well, for a 760 plus, you pretty much need about 50 or 51, and that's a little bit of a way to go. And V33, again, that's not a bad score at all, but you're looking at V40. So a little bit of preparation in both would be required. Toby, how to improve RC? First and foremost, RC, you really need to again read, right? So my one mantra for verbal is read, and my three mantras for verbal are also read. It, but the comfort, you really need to be able to comprehend what is being said, which happens when you read. And as I said, read anything as long as it's a quality publication. Just but get into the habit of reading. Yeah, your question types and stuff are only going to help you so much. What should be my strategy? Okay, Kanishk, I think I lost you there. Okay, do you have some? Yeah. But I'm not able to. Okay, I'm doing self study, but I'm unable to decide upon the right kind of study material to prepare. Have found a lot of stuff on GMAT Club for both QM, but not very much. Which, okay, so Shiv, first of all, I think most of the stuff on GMAT Club is pretty awesome. I quite enjoy it, and I think these guys are doing pretty good. And I'm not just saying it because I'm on their platform, but I have stayed with it for the past 12 years, right? I've been extremely regular on that. I've kind of enjoyed the work that they're doing. But the right kind of study material for you would depend on you. What is right for you, what is right for one may not be right for another. It depends on where your gaps are and how you want to fix them. So again, I can tell you about mine. So what I do is I offer individual modules, which means topic based modules. So I don't offer the entire curriculum. One reason is because it's not all done yet, but another reason is that if someone has like one particular topic lacking, they should be able to just go through that one topic. They should be able to purchase just that and go through that. So if you see those gaps, and if so then I can help you plug them. But yeah, more than that, I can't comment on other people's material for sure. Okay, which newspaper or online portal you recommend to improve reading comprehension? Ujjwal, newspapers, all national dailies, magazines. Of course, the Economist is the most popular, but also you can subscribe to some science journals. Also, it depends on what exactly you're looking for. I mean, Economist will have enough of those business, economy, and all kind of passages, so that will help you as well. And other than that, read whatever you like. As I said, read whichever fiction, non-fiction. It's perfectly fine as long as you're reading. You are good publication. Again, let me stress that good publication. Then classics, for example. Even reading classics is, if you enjoy that, even reading classics is great. So you can go to this Charles Dickens and Pride and Prejudice, whatever interests you. If you're reading, you are doing a favor to yourself. Yeah. I struggled on arithmetic algebra. What kind of topics do you think I should focus on? Yeah, so ratios, Jaideep, first of all, ratios and TSD, work rate, percentages. Those are the topics. Weighted averages, one of my most favorite topics. And in algebra, then you have your basic algebra, your identities and equations and all, and inequalities. It depends again. It depends on what score you are at right now. Your inequalities and absolute values will become a lot more relevant if you're at higher scores. Otherwise, word problems and quadratics and stuff like that. I mean, focus on those things then. I struggle on analysis or critique type questions, but which type of question? Yeah, so you need to evaluate the argument. Yeah, if you probably and of course weaken, and so just focus on the various question types that are there. Learn to identify what you have to focus on each question type. It'll become a lot more easier, yeah, once you understand what you're expected to do. It'll be much easier, and you'll be wasting you won't be wasting too much time. Okay, my quant, yes sir, I do struggle on, yeah. Okay. Correct, incorrect options get the maximum out of practice. Yeah, Deepak. So when analyzing correct, incorrect options together, okay, I'm assuming you're talking about verbal over here, right? So correct and incorrect options together. If you're talking about verbal critical reasoning or sentence correction, now I understand that that is where we look at every option, we try to analyze why this was wrong. In critical reasoning, as I mentioned before, most of the incorrect options I feel are irrelevant. Why? Because you really have to focus on what is given to you. So once I realize that they're irrelevant, I do not look at them again. Yeah, I do not analyze them again. um, Sentence correction, it does not help to say that if this sentence were like this instead of that, will it be correct or will it be, it just doesn't help. Look, sentence correction is that where you always have to pick the best option out of the five. I cannot say for normally, yeah. There could be cases where something does not work. There could be cases where it would work, so it will always depend on context. So in sentence correction, I have to always look for the best possible option that I have in front of me. Right now I can compare, okay, why does there are certain rules, of course, which are sacrosanct, your subject verb agreement, and those are your sacrosanct rules, your numbers, and that's fine. Plural should match with plural, and those are fine. But other than that, there are very few rules that I can give you that, okay, if it is like this, then this is the best. No, that is not. So that is why once you find the best option, then automatically the others are all eliminated, right? Okay, Shrimoy, okay, your experience is amazing. I got a 770 thanks to you. Okay, I'm very happy to hear that, Shrimoy. I'm glad you got a 770 and you found my replies helpful. Yeah, thank you, Shrimoy. Wishing you a lot of success as well in the future. Yeah, GMAT is just one part of it, isn't it? The study module in a platform comprise only theory or video. Yeah, Utsav. So that is the plan. I've started out with the theory, and eventually, and I think a couple of months down the line, I'll start putting up videos as well. But as of now, we have the theory ready for quite a few topics. Yep. Are we done for now? Do you recommend LSAT material to someone starting with GMAT verbal prep, or should you focus? LSAT material, even though relevant, part of it is relevant, but I think it does bring in a lot more complications as well. Their strength and weaken questions, they are official questions, and they don't so test prep questions of critical reasoning, the companies are preparing those questions, then normally we are all not able to do a very high level job, because the official questions do the people invest a lot of time and effort in the official questions, and that is not possible for the test prep companies, right? But LSAT questions are good, but then you can't do them blindly, because they are going to involve a lot more complications as well. They're going to be kind of questions which GMAT does not give you, and then you'll end up getting confused and all. So as far as possible, I prefer if people stick to GMAT prep questions only. There are enough available for practice. Once you get the hang of how to solve CR questions, the questions of the official GMAT prep questions are more than sufficient to tide you through. Only if no other choices left, then you can probably look at LSAT questions, but do it knowingly that there are some things which are not there in GMAT, and ensure that you don't get confused. You don't keep them away. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up this session now. Hopefully, I'll see you guys again. Hopefully, on an average, how much time do Kanishk, that on an average, how much time do 760 plus scorers spend studying? Well, that depends on person to person. Again, some people don't spend any time, others take months to get there. Depends on where you're starting, and depends on how much you want it, Kanishk. More than anything else, I think it depends on how much you want it. I mean, if I really want a 760 plus score, then every waking minute, I would spend not studying for GMAT, but ensuring that I'm adding some value. For example, whenever I'll be commuting, I might read things that are going to help me. In case I'll be probably try solving some questions of math on the way. Maybe I'll change some numbers and then see how it works and all. I'll try to cultivate an environment where I'm adding a lot of value to myself. In that case, I think even 3 months would be sufficient, in case I really wanted, and in case I put in the effort in the right direction, not just strategy wise, but if I put my heart into it, then I think even 3 months, even if you're starting from a low score, it could be doable in 3 months. Verbal does take time. Please don't get me wrong. Verbal does take time. Quant is a little easier to improve on. Verbal does take some time, because it's a skill that we acquire over years, right? Language is a skill we take a lot of time. So, but then it's anybody's guess. It really depends on where we're starting. No, no, really, but not a stupid question, but yeah, it's a question that a lot of people ask. So. How can I develop my CR skills? Sort of, they're not hard. First of all, CR is, one question type which is closest to quant, closest to math. Lot more logic based, lot more reasoning based. There, exactly how, what you have to do in each question type. After that, as I discussed, try to imagine. People having a debate or a discussion. Yeah, try to imagine that helps you keep the argument in scope. You'll not get distracted by useless information. Yeah. So that should help you for sure. Okay, I think let's call it a night, or let's begin the day depending on what time zone you're in. Hopefully, I'll see you guys again soon. Yeah, I hope that there's some value you gain out of today's session. I certainly enjoyed chatting with you guys, and I'll see you. All right, bye.